the Elkville Christian Church podcast, episode 3. I'm Jake Gibbs.
And I'm Jordan Evans. Thank you for joining.
And we are joined with our guest, Lance Weil.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time and effort.
Not a problem.
Coming here this evening. Now, we're going to get into what you do on Sunday mornings and around Sunday mornings here at Elkville Christian Church with the praise team. But first, Jordan is going to ask you some important questions.
Okay.
Don't think too much, just get the noodle warmed up. Okay. All right, favorite food?
Cheeseburgers. I got your answer there.
Toppings?
Bacon and cheese, obviously, and mustard, ketchup, and mayonnaise. There's all kinds of variations, you can have with cheeseburgers, so you can have just about anything.
So no veg?
Oh yeah, if you're being deluxe, then you can do lettuce and tomato and onions and so forth. I pretty much like every kind of cheeseburger I've ever had. So plain or deluxe, barbecue, whatever. That would be the one thing if you had only one food to live on, well, that would probably be mine. So it's also coincidentally the worst thing for me that I can eat, most likely. So there we are.
All right, movie you could watch on repeat.
The Blues Brothers.
I also like that movie.
That's a good one.
It's good.
It's a very good one.
Did you watch the sequel?
They made a sequel?
Yeah, Blues Brothers 2.
Yeah, it was not as good. I guess we'll just say that. If you hadn't seen the first one, it would have been okay. But you saw the first one.
Was that Belushi and Aykroyd as well?
No, Belushi was already gone by then. John Goodman was in it. They had all kinds of people in this one, but
Dan Aykroyd was in it though.
Dan Aykroyd was in it. Yeah, the first one is the standard, and they couldn't. They didn't make any more. It was not up to that one.
I was surprised at how good it was. I thought it was going to be way worse when I watched it. I didn't even know there was a sequel, and then I watched it not that long ago.
First time.
It's called Blues Brothers 2000, and it was good. I mean, the music was very good in it. It has all kinds of people in it. It also has a line that I love. It says, "You can't outrun a Motorola." Well, I have worked for Motorola all these years, and it was a referencing you can't outrun a two-way radio. So.
All right, if you could visit any era or time period, what would it be?
Era or time period? I maybe the 50s. That was before me, because that seemed like that was a pretty fun time. The Wild West would be all very cool, because I always, in my cranky old man modes, which is very often, I always think the Wild West is where I should have been. Yeah, well, it's just like, we'll get this justice over with. But yeah, maybe one of those two. I don't have any desire to be, a lot of people say, oh, I'd like to go back to colonials. It's like, how hard those people had to work just to live. I mean, they chopped wood daily. It was. Yeah, I can't imagine.
And I always think like ancient Greece, or just to see that. But then people didn't live very long, and it was a hard way of life. Yeah. I think there was a simplicity to it compared to the way we live now. But
it was simple because you're basically trying to survive every day.
Yeah, really, that was the main impetus of. Yeah, I don't know how many. Modern day people could live very long in that. If you were transported back, you'd just be like, wow. Yeah.
All right. Past, present, or future. If you could have dinner and a conversation with any person, who would it be?
Past, present, or future. Dinner with anybody. Well, I guess Jesus would be the obvious answer, but I'm going to get to see him. So
you don't have to go that route. I mean,
obvious would be no one else has said that before.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, it goes without saying. It's understood. Jesus.
Yes, but
I don't know. There's a lot of biblical characters that would be, really insightful to see. Obviously Paul would be very, very good. Really learn a lot from him. Moses would be a mind-blowing trip too, I think. But more realistic, having dinner with Elvis would be awfully cool. Because I hear he was kind of a cool guy to hang out with, that kind of thing.
All right. If you could be president for a day, what's the first thing you would do?
Oh, boy.
I mean, I've said, like free Dippin' Dots for everybody, ban unskippable YouTube ads. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Trying to be too political here because there's a lot of those things, I guess. But probably enact a try to come up with some law against being inconsiderate, whether it's not putting your grocery cart away, or not loading, let people get in front of you in the shopping line, when they've got 2 items and you've got 1,000. Well, we'll let them in. There's just not enough of that kind of thing. But yeah, we could go on and on.
If you weren't doing what you do now or before Motorola, what would your dream job be?
Oh, the dream. Well, the first dream was a pro baseball player. Well, that ended pretty soon. And so the next dream was a professional musician and be a rock star. Well, that ended fairly soon too. So when you're a kid, but even still, it's like, oh, that would still be fun to be a big time musician traveling around. Although just the little tiniest taste of it that I had, you can see, yeah, it's not all luxurious, and it's not all that all that fun. There's a lot of traveling. I did,
It's never too late. I mean, if I understand, Quincy Jones didn't do Thriller until later on in his career, right? So
yeah, well, he had a lot more talent than I would. But yeah, there's a lot of people who have big careers once they're retired, once they're older, whatever. So
you mentioned every once in a while that you were in a band and with Kevin Piper, and so was that just one band you were involved with? Or?
I was in a couple bands with Kevin. Prior to that, I was in a band when I met my wife, and in that band 2 or 3 different times. Still play with those guys once in a while, called the Pre Brothers Band. And we were a country rock band, and this was when we were kids. And so
you're talking about like high school?
Right out in college.
Okay.
In college, I was 19, I think, when I started with them, and played, off and on different times and so forth. And like I say, you have these unreasonable expectations. And, I always say, anybody thinks they're good, it's like, just go on down to Nashville and walk up and down, Broadway there and see those people playing for tips and so forth. And they're just awesome. It's like, yeah, I remember when we did that, went down and visited this guy, and when I don't know if you guys remember Opryland. Kids were playing at Opryland, and they're playing, they're singing, they're incredible, and they look like movie stars. And so it's like, yeah, what am I thinking? I'm not sure what I'm thinking, but it's a tough business, I think, to break into. But yeah, that'd probably be the dream job, I guess, because there's even now seeing Christian acts, it's like, yeah, they're having a blast. That's when they're performing, they're having a blast. Everything else probably really is not so fun, but they're having a good time, and it's obviously doing a good thing. So,
all right, last one. Would you rather know the history of every object you touched, or be able to talk to animals?
Well, I think talk to animals would be more useful, because if you knew the history of everything you touched, you'd be like, I am not touching that.
It could go both ways, and I agree completely, and I go back and forth on this, but I think, like, if you could go to the Smithsonian, and maybe that's a bad example because you kind of know the history of that stuff, but...
Or you think you know.
Right. Well, I mean, so I bought an old surplus gun, a Mosin from Russia. Don't know the age of it or nothing, but... It could have been It could have been in Stalingrad. You just don't know. Or like maybe a B.B. King guitar or something, but who passed it down, or who else played it, or I don't know. I go back and forth.
That would be interesting to be able to see that.
Maybe not everyday items, but
you could go to the Shroud of Turin and touch it and find out.
Yeah, is this real or not? That would be cool. There'd be some really cool historic things to do. I
was always team talk to animals, but now that we're diving into it a little bit deeper, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. If you could talk to animals, you might be like, okay, we don't have any animals around at all, because like we were talking about with the cat, you'd be like, that cat is going to kill me if he can, you know. So
maybe we don't want to vocalize its thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you could go to the Holy Land and like stuff that seems maybe not so important, but you touch it and find out, I don't know. Cleopatra was here. You know, Moses walked on that rock. I don't know.
That would be very that would be neat. That'd be kind of mind blowing for sure.
All right, so our scripture for this episode is Psalm 100. I'll go ahead and read that. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name. For the Lord is good, his steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. Amen. So I thought that was particularly fitting for this topic with you. Again, I don't know if you officially have a title, but I took the liberty of titling you Praise Team Director.
Yeah, I'm not, that's as good as anything, I guess. I'm not really hung up on titles. I never have been. My work and so forth. But director may be a little strong because it kind of implies that somebody listens to me or does what I tell them to do. And sometimes that's just really not the case. But yeah, that's okay. Coordinator, scheduler, cat shepherd,
cat herder.
Because you do. And this is something in my career I kind of learned that you have to be flexible. You have to be able to make adjustments. You may not have much warning, that kind of thing. So, so that's where I'm at, and I'm glad to do it, I guess. So,
well, one of the things that we're highlighting with the episodes that we're putting together is that we haven't really verbalized this yet, but
that's true.
My whole life I've been raised in this church. Essentially, you come to Sunday morning service and everything just happens. You don't really get to see the behind the scenes and all the time and effort that people go in to make Sunday morning a success, which is a worship service hopefully worthy to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Right.
And one of the key aspects of that is what you do with the praise team, like you said, coordinating singers, musicians. I assume, why don't you go ahead and tell us about what goes into a Sunday morning service from your perspective?
Yeah, well, there's some variables, of course, depending on if it's a special Sunday or whatever, or if we've got videos, or if we've got special music, those kinds of things. But generally speaking, the hard part of the job is earlier in the week when I'm trying to pick out songs and so forth. And I always say, not joking, that God picks out the songs, particularly if they were good and they all kind of went together and fit the sermon and those kinds of things. Because I don't know the sermons ahead of time. It's just like God picked those out. He put my eye on there and said, "Hey, we should do that." But it's trying to not be too repetitive with the songs, not do them every month. Try to keep that organized and. So that you don't get burnt out on a song. If there's a new song or something like that, then I'll buy the music and so forth and get that distributed. So that's kind of happens during the week or monthly when I do schedules and so forth. And there's just almost usually some revisions that have to happen because somebody was sick or whatever. So that's all just kind of clerical work, really, if you want to call it that. On Sunday mornings, I'll get here about 7:45, get things turned on, get things put where they're supposed to be. The team will generally come in hopefully by 8:15, and we can start rehearsal. That includes the person who's running the proclaim, the presentation. And as you mentioned, it's been Amanda Hickman pretty much exclusively lately, although Travis came in and ran it last week, I think. So there's a lot of people who have input, in making it happen on Sunday morning. But as far as the song service, yeah, that's pretty much me, and we'll rehearse on Sunday morning. rarely will scratch a song because, okay, this is just not going to work. Usually we'll make it happen. And we joke that sometimes, okay, rehearsal was pretty rough, and we'll be like, okay, God, it's up to you now, it's joking but not joking. It's like, and you know what? It almost always it's always good. It's always better than what I thought it was going to be. There's always potential for hiccups and glitches, because we're humans. But that's pretty much it. After rehearsal, then I'll put together the announcements and get input from Gary and from others on what announcements need to be made or what was right in the bulletin, what wasn't. And so sometimes it seems like I'm just reading out of the bulletin. I know it's like, well, these are ones that somebody asked me to make sure we highlighted or correct. I do try to have some energy and try to be enthusiastic. It's not really my nature, but try to put that on and try to get people to get a little bit excited and a little enthused to be here and praise God. Referencing that scripture, it is very applicable to the praise team because we should always be glad and be energetic and so forth. And I often pray, thanking God for letting us serve Him in this way, doing something that's fun for us. At least it's fun for me. I've been playing drums for 50 years, 50 plus. I know it seems like I should be a lot better having played that long, but I think I'm about topped out on my talent, but it's still fun, and I still really like to play. So as long as I can do it, I guess I will. But being able to use all that honky-tonk band experience and serve Him with it, well, that's really cool to me. So, but anyway, Sunday mornings is usually not too bad. Sometimes it can be a little chaotic if stuff's happening or we have some last second changes or whatever. But with everybody's help and so forth, everybody does their job, then we can make it happen. So that's really kind of serving in a whole for the church is everybody does their part. Everybody, and then it works, and we can hopefully present something that's meaningful to the congregation and hopefully glorifying to God.
Sure.
Well, we're very thankful for what you do.
We are, because I think you do it. In light of that verse, I think you do a tremendous service to us in getting us into that mood, and sometimes that can be hard. I'm sure a crowd has a mood to it.
Yeah, I mean that's you'll even hear me say that sometimes. It's like everybody wake up or whatever. All right, everybody run a couple laps or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll just apologize ahead of time. This is my happy face, so just don't look at me.
Well, it is. Some people are, just reserved.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do that, and that's really most of us in this church. There's a few people who jump up and get with it, but that's really just who we are, and that's okay because that's who I am really too. When I go to a Christian concert, we went to the last one we went to. Actually, went with your mom and dad to We Are Messengers. That thing was a rock show from the first note. The two bands that opened for We Are Messengers, everybody's jumping up and down. There was a lot of young people there, so we're like four old fogies sitting here because we're not doing that. It's like, I hope they don't shine a spotlight on us and like, what's your problem? It's like, we're old and you want me to raise my hands? My shoulder hurts. I can't. That's just, and it's really kind of who we are. That's who we are. So
So as far as like back in the sound booth or even up on stage, what specific needs do you have?
Well, you mentioned sound booth. I'll just start with that. We do need people to run sound. Alan generally in the morning will kind of set things for us while we're rehearsing. But rehearsal and performance are different because you've got all these people in here, so that changes the sound dynamic. And a lot of people will not sing fully during rehearsal, whether they're saving themselves, as in Kevin's point. I didn't want to call anybody out, but yeah, he'll save himself. I don't want to point her out either, but Amy, your mother, will not sing as loud in rehearsal as she does in the performance. It's just, she's listening and trying to get the part right and so forth. Well, that's all fine, except that somebody trying to set the sound mix doesn't have what it's actually going to be. So a sound person is very useful, just to have somebody back there just to be listening in case something blows up. Okay, you can start shutting things down, start trying to make adjustments. Now, Hayden Dinga has been doing that for us when he's here recently. But if we had some more people, it would be great, because we can always have somebody learning. It's one of those things that's not hard. You just have to be able to hear a little bit. You do need to have a little bit of a musical ear, I think, but you just basically need to be able to hear. You need to be able to hear and say, they're way loud, I need to turn them down. And also be very useful for when we have events like weddings and funerals and whatever else is going on. Sometimes a sound person is needed, and me or Alan can't always be here, So a sound person would be a great thing.
Sure.
Well, that's one of the things we're trying to do with these podcasts, is really highlight the needs we have in these positions. And in every one of these positions, we have somebody, but if they're not here, we have nobody else. So we need more volunteers. If you don't want to commit full time, that's fine. But if somebody we can call, just have a list like, hey, this person's not going to be here. Would you be interested in filling in? Mm-hmm. We don't have a lot of depth, and so hopefully these will get us some more volunteers.
That's a really good point. Is that if somebody doesn't show up to run the proclaim that Sunday, I'm scrambling, trying to figure out how can I get this done. Somebody's going to have to go back and do that. And if it's already set up, it's not too bad. But if you have to make changes and so forth, then you have to know about it a little bit. It's not a real hard program. So we'd be thrilled if people would step forward and say, hey, I'll take a stab at that. Again, it needs to be somebody who's not terrified of computers, or who doesn't hate computers, which is my I'm working with computers. My first job out of college was selling computers. I've dealt with them my entire life, my entire career dealing with computers, and I've developed a very deep hatred for them. so
have you guys ever had to pour holy water on any of the instruments to get them to work correctly?
Not the instruments. No, the computer. We thought we might need.
It needs a good baptism.
Do something.
Get the demons out of the machine.
I've threatened many times to say, I have a really big hammer in my car. But
well, like you mentioned earlier, you've been drumming as long as I can remember.
Much longer than you've been alive. So yeah.
At church.
It doesn't make me feel old or anything like that. But
I meant specifically at Elkville.
Yeah.
Because we didn't always have a praise team.
No. The praise team started, I was trying to figure that out. I think about 2000 or 2001. We were still in the old building, and I would say maybe 1999, maybe 2000 started. So it's been about 25 years that we had a team.
Yeah.
Oakville, it's odd that we had that, because one of the reasons that drew me to Oakville Christian Church in the first place was the music was so much better than where I was going, and I won't call them out, but it was pathetic. So anyways, it's just been a lot. It was a lot more energetic. Everything was just better, and so it's like, hey, this is where we're going to go to church now. And so then it kind of evolved. I don't know to I think started out with Joyce Hickman and Jeff. I can't think of his last name.
Collins.
Jeff Collins playing guitar up there. And then they added another keyboard, and I think Rachel may have played keyboard even then. She was just a kid. But eventually we got kind of got it together, Kevin and me and Jerry Piper, and we got it going, and it grew from there. We got Mark Lewers, who we played back with in the honky tonk bands, one of them. Steve Stanton joined. He's an old rock and roll guitar guy, and before we knew it, we had a pretty good band. We really did.
We've been blessed.
Trying to have a glorifying worship service, and really, I always say it's like, we could pay people. I guess we could do that. And maybe it'll come to that sometime, but I really, don't want to have to do that. I'd rather recruit people, get people raised up, in it, get them to come and play with us. We really, always look for more musicians, and we're kind of stocked up on singers right now, but that doesn't mean I don't want to hear you if you can sing. Sure. If you got a gift, we want to use it. So I don't want to make that impression. We're always looking for musicians. It's not start from scratch. It's not beginners. You do need to know how to play a little bit. You need to know some chords. You need to know how to read music. You need to know how to do some things so that we can build on that. Beginners. I'm not a teacher, and I don't. But if it's kind of the natural progression for somebody who is maybe taking piano lessons or taking, whatever kind of lessons, whatever kind of horn, whatever kind of instrument it is, whether it's a horn, whether it's a fiddle, whether it's, we can use you. Sure. So as far as that, reach out to me. I'll, come in or tell somebody, and we'll talk. We'll try to make use.
Is there anything left unsaid that you'd like to mention in closing, or anything we didn't touch on?
The main thing, well, before I forget it, drummers. We're going to have drummers. Step forward, please.
Sure. You weren't always our drummer, and you're not always going to be our drummer.
Well, here's the, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. It's like I'm not young anymore. I can still play, but there will be a time when I'm not. So need to bring other people along. For a while. Mm-hmm. I guess the only other thing I want to say is I don't express appreciation as much as I should to my team members. I mean, I buy them a bag of candy at Christmas time, and that's about it. And that's just woefully inadequate. They put in a lot of work. Some people put in more work than others, but everybody puts in a lot of work. Particularly the people doing the backroom stuff, the proclaim and so forth. There's a lot of that stuff going on. There are people that put together the guitar chords and so forth. Everybody's trying to be helpful and so forth, and I appreciate that all very much. But that's a lot of getting up early. That's something I guess maybe the congregation doesn't understand, is that, some of us have been getting up early for 25 years, to make this happen. And so, not looking for praise or anything else, but just it's like, hey, that's something that I do, something we do, that these core team members that have been here forever. Your dad, one of them. I don't want to go through the list because I'll forget somebody, and then that'll be a problem. But there's a lot of people that's been doing this for literally 25 years, and so that's a lot of early morning get-ups and preparation and so forth, and nerves and that kind of thing. So just want to appreciate all those folks very much, because I understand what they have to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point, and that's something that we want to highlight too, is if you want to be a part of that, you want to be a part of that culture, you say it a lot, you get in what you put, or you get out what you put in. And there's I kind of understand sometimes, and I've had this where somebody wanted to be on the praise team and so forth, and somebody told me, and I was almost railroaded to have this person come up, and then I find out, they're not a good fit
whatsoever, and they're not doing it for the right reason. Well, you got to do this for the right reason. This isn't ECC version of American Idol. It's we're here to serve God. I mean, it's to glorify God. That's the overriding goal. And along with that, if we can rejuvenate somebody's faith a little bit, if they come a little closer to Jesus because of something that they heard in a song, well, that's just awesome. I don't know what else we could possibly do.
Terrific.
So that's a great goal.
Don't know if I've ever done that. I don't know if we've ever done that, but I got to think we have a little bit. I see people crying once in a while, when you get the right song. So it's like, okay, at least touched a nerve here,
Well, music is just, it's kind of, I come from such a non-musical family, besides my mom who can sing and has some musical talent, but that's so lost on me. But music, I almost sometimes wish I understood it better, because it does communicate to you more than other forms of communication. Yeah. Like, singing a praise to our Savior is like such a natural aspect of life almost, and I wish I could do that better. Yeah. But why not do that on a Sunday morning the best we can?
Yeah, and that's throughout the Bible. I mean, you had Psalm 100. There's another one. There's verses throughout the Bible talking about praising God with our voice, with instruments, and so forth. My favorite one is Psalm 150, because it talks about resounding cymbals, praise Him with resounding cymbals. I'm just like okay, there's make these things resound. But yeah, I could do that. Yeah. But music is kind of a international. I won't say not. Language. It's more of a language than not, and some people, reverberate with that, and some don't resonate, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it's sometimes certain songs, even secular songs, will hit you just right. But when you add the lyrics, when you add the meaning and so forth of worship songs, of Christian music, it really can really hit home.